On this week's episode of the SSPX podcast, we're speaking with Father John McFarland. Father McFarland is the Vocations Director for the U.S. District of the Society of St. Pius X, as well as being the Prior of Our Lady of Sorrows in Phoenix, Arizona. We had the opportunity to sit down and chat with him in his office in the middle of June, and due to some scheduling conflicts, we weren't able to get this episode posted before one of the events that we talked about, which was the Men's Vocations Retreat on July 6th through the 11th. But the Women's Vocation Retreat is still upcoming on July the 20th, and regardless, we spoke about a lot more than just the Vocations Retreat. We talked about the concept of vocations in general, what his role is, how the U.S. District works with the seminary, St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary in Virginia, and much, much more. So if you are interested in vocations, have some questions about a vocation, or just are interested in the concept of the Catholic Church in general, this is an interview that you won't want to miss. If you'd like more information about the priesthood in particular and vocations in general, you can visit the fsspx.org website. Right there on the top of the site, you'll see a button that says Priesthood. You'll be able to read through a lot more there, as well as the website for St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary. That website is stas.org for St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary. And if you have a particular question for Father McFarland that you would like him to answer or to look at, please feel free to visit our website, sspxpodcast.com, fill out the contact form, and we will make sure the message gets along to him as well. With that said, here's Father McFarland. Well, Father, thanks for joining us for this video and podcast. You're the Vocations Director for the Society of St. Pius X in the U.S. District. Is that correct?
That's right.
So I guess before we get into that and before we start talking about the vocation retreats themselves, the relationship between the Society of the St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary and the U.S. District, they're kind of separate, but they work hand in hand. Can you explain a little bit how that works?
So the seminaries of the Society are all considered to be international.
Okay.
They do not, in terms of the structure of the hierarchy, they do not fall under the district. They are independent in that sense. The seminary rector and the district superior are both major superiors. They're on the same level within the society. So each one would be a district superior, and seminary rector would each be involved in the general chapters and meetings of the superiors and so on. So they're at the same level of the hierarchy.
Okay.
But of course, there does have to be collaboration. You know, the St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary is located in the United States. The vast majority of the seminarians are from the United States, so not all of them, but
right.
But like you said, the vast majority. And the seminarians are, so to speak, sponsored by a district. So applications to the seminary go first to the district, who then approves their application and sends it on to the seminary. And the district does have a certain responsibility for them, even while they are the seminarians. And then even more so if they should leave the seminary and come back to the district without being ordained and so on. The district has the responsibility to help them readjust to life in the world.
To get back to that. Okay. And so as the Vocations Director, honestly, before you and I started talking about this about a year ago, I didn't even know that there was such a position, or is that fairly common? Is there usually one person, one priest in a district that's kind of in charge of, and we'll get into what it is you do, but is there usually one person like that?
No, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only one in the society at this point.
Okay.
It is, however, a position that does exist in the church at large. Most dioceses, most religious congregations do have a vocations director.
Okay.
And that's not, it's relatively modern, but it's certainly something that existed throughout the 20th century.
Sure.
Just to have somebody in charge of looking after this process and helping these young people to get where they need to be. Okay.
So what do you do? What does a vocations director do? Is it about fostering vocations? Is it about, like you said, kind of helping people adjust as they come back from the seminary if they find that wasn't their vocation? What is it that you do?
All of those things, in fact. So certainly just trying to promote vocations in general, to encourage the faithful at large to pray for the intention to contribute to even monetarily to the process and so on, to get more and more young people thinking about it, to help those people who are thinking about it to take the necessary steps, I think that's a big part of it. Maybe the biggest part for someone who says, I want to be a priest or I want to be a religious. What now?
What now? Right.
And in particular, it's a bit easier for someone who's gone to a school of the society or is a lifetime parishioner, knows priests that he can talk to easily. But we're certainly getting a lot of interest from people who have just recently come into contact with us, maybe just been to one of our masses a few times. And those people need a lot of guidance, a lot of questions answered. So that's been a big part of this process, especially lately. We've had a lot of just inquiries from people who have not previously been associated with us, which has been quite fascinating and encouraging.
Yeah. On that note, have you seen more interest in the religious life and the priestly life? Young men, young women interested in a religious vocation now, kind of post or in the middle of COVID compared to before, or do you foresee that happening?
In fact, I have. I've certainly received more inquiries since the lockdowns and so on.
Sure.
How exactly that's working and what's driving that, it's hard to say at this point.
Right.
But there definitely has been an increase in contact with me as vocations director for that.
Wow.
Another thing I do is help the priests. Answering their questions, answering questions about particular situations. I'm not sure about this young man. Here is what qualifications, or here's what might be a problem. What should I do?
Right.
Where do I go from there? So that I'm still learning a lot on that level, having to find answers to those questions. But as we go, I'm assuming it'll be easier.
Yeah. So why did you ask to be put in this position, or did Father Wegner, Father LaRue offer it to you? I mean, obviously you have a passion for vocations. That's something that you here at Our Lady of Sorrows, you speak about it a lot. Not too much. It's good. But is that something that, was kind of put on you, or something you asked for? Or?
A little of both.
Okay.
At the priest retreat that I was attending as a retreatant a couple years ago, Father Wegner was preaching it, and he was talking about everyone sort of finding his particular niche, his particular focus of his priesthood, as it were.
Sure.
And already to that point in my previous work, I'd done a lot of work with vocations and young people and so on. And so in a consultation, I went to talk to him about it, and he said, that was very interesting. We were looking for someone to be vocations director.
So you were voluntold.
Yeah. And I don't, it's certainly more work, but I don't mind at all. It's a necessary work.
Yeah.
It's very interesting work. It is something that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what you do. Let's pivot to the young man. We're going to be talking probably mostly about the seminary and the priesthood, but a lot of this obviously applies to the religious life as well. In a sermon a few weeks ago, you were talking about how does one get to the position of being called to the priesthood, and it's that call at the ordinations where the bishop calls the young man to become a priest. You said the bishop doesn't just start calling random guys out of the crowd. At ordination, one puts himself in that position by going to the seminary. And you listed some attributes that a seminarian needs to have, or a potential seminarian needs to have. Right intention, so some sort of supernatural intention, a lack of impediments, moral and intellectual fitness, maturity. But even before that, Father, what is it that a young man is just graduating high school or is in the middle of college or something? What is it that they should be looking for themselves interiorly that is kind of a sign or a signal to themselves that, hey, maybe I should try out the seminary? Or is it everyone? Should everyone try out the seminary?
No, there has to be, like I said, a certain degree of necessary qualities.
Okay.
So there are people who are not going to be cut out for it, certainly, and that'll be evident. But most are not going to be so obviously disqualified. And it's not necessarily finding something in oneself. Mm-hmm. That can happen. Everything can happen. You know, hearing stories about what what got some young man to the seminary. Everybody's different, and God working through secondary causes. His grace is obviously there, but that's, we don't perceive that action of grace until there's something that, that kind of pushes us sensibly in that direction. And it can be a retreat. It can be a piece of advice. It can be, a particular light in prayer. It can be, just a dawning sense of the need for priests or the need for religious, a certain dissatisfaction with life in the world. Got everything I'm supposed to have. I've got my job, I've got my car, I've got, why aren't I happy? Is this all there is? And really there's as many different things prompting one to that as there are young men who enter the seminary or young people who enter the religious life.
And you said it takes a certain generosity. So that's probably one of the biggest attributes. It's a certain amount of generosity to devote your life. I mean, shoot, even to go into the seminary itself, but certainly to become a priest, a brother, a sister.
Mm-hmm. And that's certainly when we're, in promoting vocations, a lot of it is about trying to foster that spirit of generosity.
Sure, absolutely. I don't know if you want to tackle this question. If not, I can cut it out. But there's a friend of mine who's now a priest, and I've known him all the way from, we were both 8 years old together to now being a priest. And it was funny seeing his journey. That sounds like a modern word, but truly his journey from trying to figure out what he's going to do in life. He tried dating, all the relationships just kind of didn't work out. Mm-hmm. He tried different jobs. He tried going to school, and there was that sense of dissatisfaction with everything was, nothing was really working for him. He said, well, I mean, I've always loved the priesthood, so I'm going to go give it a shot and try it out. And I said, really, you're going to do that? And I probably committed the biggest sin that you said not to do in that sermon. Really? You're going to, but he did. And he said, I'm going to stay in the seminary until my superior or God tells me not to. Is that kind of a valid path as well?
Certainly. And you don't want to go with the sort of try it mentality of I'll just get it crossed off my list and I won't try very hard and I hope they tell me to go home soon.
Sure.
But to say, look, I'm going to give this everything I have. Mm-hmm. And if they tell me to go, then I go and I can be entirely at peace. Mm-hmm. But this is worth pursuing and I'm going to give myself to it the best that I can. Yeah. And that is definitely a valid way to approach it.
And I would say probably, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but if someone is in that position and their spiritual director in the seminary says, no, this isn't for you, that doesn't necessarily disqualify them from another avenue in the religious life.
That's true. Unless there's some canonical impediment, then one is free to try elsewhere. But can still make that effort to give his life to God.
On that note, it's interesting because we're living in 2020. 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago, there were many different religious orders.
Right.
You could become a Jesuit. You could become a diocesan priest. You could become a Benedictine. There's now for young men in America really 3 options that exist. There's the SSPX brothers, there's the SSPX priests, and Benedictines down in New Mexico. This is maybe looking at it in a pessimistic way, but do you think vocations are being lost in a sense because we don't have that many options anymore?
Well, I think that we have to account for God's providence as well. Sure. So he's not going to be, he knows that this situation would happen. And so, the graces are going to be there for young men in those to give themselves in large numbers if they're generous, if they're corresponding with that grace to those 3 options. Sure. And certainly at the beginning of the church, there weren't a lot of options.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
that's fair. On that note, I just received an email from a father of a young lady who made her perpetual vows in the Consoling Sisters of the Sacred Heart in Italy. Mm-hmm. So Sister Maria Elisabetta de Bambino Gesù, I'm butchering the name, but two American young ladies made their perpetual vows in the...
It's first vows, actually.
Oh, first vows?
Yeah. This morning. Yeah.
This morning. And then 4 more young ladies in the convent, 3 of them from America as well, made their postulants or took the habit.
Took the habit, yeah.
Took the habit this morning. when you're talking with a young man or a young lady, and they say, I would like to devote my life to God, help me figure out what to do. Do you kind of help them figure out, maybe you should go to the Consoling Sisters of the Sacred Heart. Maybe you should go to the SSPX Sisters. Maybe you should be a Carmelite. Do you kind of help them figure it out, or is there some sort of special attribute that kind of helps you lead them to the right place? Or
it really depends very much on certain aptitudes, especially if they are interested in the contemplative life. For young ladies, those contemplative congregations like the Carmelites are not for everyone. And there's certainly a great appeal to them, especially if they've read Saint Therese of the Child of Jesus and they're drawn by that spirituality. But
sure.
it does take a tremendous balance to live that cloistered life. And so there's that as a question. But then beyond that, it's really a lot about just what is their attraction? In terms of thinking about the religious life, what is that they really want to do? It can be a question of an attraction to, say, Carmelite spirituality, or attraction to the devotion to the Sacred Heart, or they want to be a teacher, or to work in a more nursing type of capacity, and then to steer them in the direction of those congregations that do those different kinds of work. Sometimes really they visit a place and they just like it.
Yeah, sure.
It feels like home to them. There's a welcoming family atmosphere,
right?
And they seem to fit in, and that is very often the deciding factor.
And that wouldn't be really selfish. I mean, that's probably something that many of us think of, well, we need to not be selfish, but you also have to be happy in a certain sense. You have to be satisfied in the life otherwise you're going to do a bad job.
Right. And if it seems to work for you,
sure.
You can even think of it like getting married,
sure.
That you're not just, I've got my list of qualifications for a spouse, you meet them, we should get married. There is that personal side of it,
sure.
that interaction. Do we work together?
Right.
And I think that also does play a role in questions of the religious life.
Very good. Well, let's move on to the Vocations retreat. We have 2 Vocations retreats coming up this summer, and one for ladies here in Phoenix, and one for young men. That's up at the Holy Angels Novitiate up in Winona. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. Okay. People are probably familiar with the Ignatian retreat. The 5-day Ignatian retreat that we do here at Phoenix. Is it sort of similar to that? Is it based off of the same sort of ideal, or what's the purpose of the Vocations retreat? How is it different from others?
So it is the way we are conducting the retreats. They will be Ignatian retreats.
Okay.
So 5-day Ignatian retreats. And in St. Ignatius's original idea of the retreat, he's got his retreating for 30 days.
Sure. And
it's one-on-one retreating and retreat master. It's not the most efficient way to preach retreats, that's for sure. It'd be nice, but and so to be able to focus the retreat a bit more, it helps to narrow it down so that you have these people who are at the same place in their life effectively. Your typical 5-day Ignatian retreat, you've got a huge range of ages and backgrounds and where they are in their lives. We had one retreat last year where we had an 18-year-old young man and an 87-year-old. They're not thinking about the same things.
Sure.
And it's not like they won't get anything out of it, but you can really, with a more focused group, you can do things you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And so that they're all thinking about taking this step to perhaps pursue the priesthood of the religious life. We focus very much on St. Ignatius's choice of a way of life. Is kind of the big moment, if you will, of the whole retreat. So to get them thinking in that mindset early on, and using the meditations, St. Ignatius is 30 days, we cram it into 5. So there's lots of stuff you have to leave out.
Right.
So when you have this focused group of people thinking about choosing a state of consecrated life, you can use some of those meditations that you might not otherwise use. So
sure.
We'll do a meditation on the call of the apostles, for example, that we wouldn't do on an ordinary 5-day Ignatian retreat.
Okay. Who should be attending the retreat? I know when I was graduating high school, or 16, 17 through 19, it was put into my head, looking back at it wrongly now, that, all right, you have to decide whether you're going to go to college or go to the seminary, or you're going to go to work or go to the seminary. And you have to make that decision at age 17. And looking back on it now, I realize that was not the right message to be giving to, 16, 17, 18 year olds. So obviously you joined the seminary a little bit later after college, right? You graduated from University of Maryland.
That's right.
So who should be attending? Who should be looking at possibly attending this retreat?
Those people who are at that point in their life where they are seriously considering this. This is an option that's really on the table for them, that it's been on their mind. They want to really consider it, with that spirit of generosity, with a degree of seriousness. It's got to be more than just, well, maybe,
right.
But beyond that, there aren't too many restrictions, I would say, on who can attend. Obviously, you have to be free to choose the priesthood of the religious life.
Sure.
If you're already married or have impediments of other sorts, then it wouldn't be for you.
There goes my deposit. Great, thanks. All right. So do you want a lot of people to come? I mean, obviously you do, in a sense. You
Yes.
want many
Yes.
vocations, but if someone's like, well, I might be, I don't know, I'm just kind of starting to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want that kind of person to come to the retreat, or someone who's really more seriously thinking about it?
It's not going to hurt.
Okay.
the person in that first sort.
Sure.
And I think it can be an opportunity to become, more serious about it. But yeah, it does have to be a real option, because if you're just there to make mom happy or whatever, then that's the candidate that I don't want. That's the one that's not likely to bear fruit.
Absolutely. You want people to consider the priesthood, the religious life, the consecrated life. Are there other benefits to going on this retreat? I mean, if let's say I were able to go and didn't have the impediments, and I went and decided not to become a priest or a brother, I'd be getting something out of it, right?
Certainly, and not just having arrived at that decision, which is, can be helpful too.
Sure.
But also, it's the benefits of any 5-day Ignatian retreat you have. You're spending that time in that close contact with our Lord in silence, thinking about Him, getting more serious about your Catholic life. And I think even for those who decide not to pursue it, it can also help to deepen their appreciation for the priesthood and the religious life, to be supporters of it for the future, for their own children if they get married and have kids, and so on.
Right, absolutely. It's funny that as I've worked more with the Society of St. Pius X over the years, I've gained a deeper appreciation for the priesthood. And I'm not just sitting here saying this because I'm in front of you, but I wish more people understood the importance of it. And I realize, and in sermons, probably it's difficult for you to preach that without sounding very self-aggrandizing.
Yes.
So what more can me, us faithful, what more could we do to help promote the priesthood, really?
The first and very obvious answer, it sounds like the thing that I have to say, is to pray.
Sure.
To pray for priests, to pray for the sanctification of priests, to pray for vocations.
Mm-hmm.
But it really, the grace is a reality. The supernatural is real, and we need that.
Mm-hmm.
We never see directly the results of those prayers in the sense that I know that my prayer helped that guy.
Right.
But it does. There are any number of young men who make it to the priesthood, who seemed like long shots or almost backed out at a certain point. Yeah. And what got them there, to a large extent, it was the prayers of the faithful.
Absolutely. And as far as this Vocations retreat itself, can people sponsor someone? Can people help, to send someone? There's probably a cost. I think it's $200 or something to go on this retreat.
I think it's $250 for Winona and $300 here.
$300 here. Okay. Well, we'll have the details in the descriptions here. But if someone wants to help support this type of Vocations retreat or fostering vocations, that's possible for them to do as well.
Certainly, we could absolutely make that happen.
You're not going to say no to that.
We're not going to turn down people trying to pay for retreats.
Okay. Just kind of one more thing as we close here. there was a part of your sermon that you gave a few weeks ago, and you're probably going to start sweating when I say this because I'm quoting you. You said it's not a matter of deep soul searching to find some mysterious calling in the depths of our being. It's a judgment of prudence, realizing that the priesthood is worth pursuing and deciding to do it. So for the young man who's thinking, I might be giving up this, I might be giving up that, I might be, waffling back and forth, can you speak to that of telling them this is something worth doing?
All right, well, anything worth doing is going to involve sacrifice. And generally the greater the thing we're trying to accomplish, the more sacrifice it's going to involve.
Mm-hmm.
But God is never outdone in generosity, as we say, and it really is true.
Sure.
The priesthood it's a beautiful life. The religious life is a beautiful life. There are crosses, but there are crosses in any life.
Yeah.
And there are tremendous helps for bearing those crosses. The community life, the prayer in common, the daily mass and daily communion, all of these great gifts that God gives us as his official friends, right? Those of us who really have dedicated our lives entirely to him.
Mm-hmm.
We have a special right to graces. We have a special relationship with God that is worth really sacrificing anything for.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Father. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the SSPX podcast. If you'd like more information about Vocations and the priesthood, again, 2 websites you can visit: sspx.org. Just click on Priesthood right at the top of the page. Or you can visit St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary's website. That's at stas.org. And as always, we'll make a little pitch here at the end for your help and your support. A free way to help is to subscribe and to rate the podcast, leaving it a 5-star rating or hitting the like button depending on which podcast app or program you're using. Helps us out immensely. And simply sharing this podcast, sending it to someone or telling someone about it. The more that people see it, the more this will pop up in recommendations for people who may be interested in this sort of thing. So that is really the best way for you to help spread this apostolate. And if you are able to, setting up a recurring $5, $10, $20 donation for the SSPX podcast helps us out quite a bit. It takes a great amount of time and resources, especially monetary resources, to put these together. So please visit sspxpodcast.com. You'll be able to see all the archives there, by the way, everything that we've ever put out on all of our podcast episodes. But there's a link there to donate, and you can set up a simple recurring donation. It's safe, secure, and easy. Again, $5, $10, $20 a month. Whatever you are able to do, as long as we have those recurring donations, we know that we can keep going and keep producing these podcasts. Thank you for listening, and we'll speak with you next time when we interview Father Paul Robinson.